welcome to another episode
Episode
of Two Sisters of a Certain Age, Conversations with a Therapist and a Doctor. I'm your co-host, Judy Grant, licensed marriage and family therapist.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Sophia Grant, board-certified pediatrician and board-certified child abuse pediatrician.
All right, so we are back, folks. Glad to have you join us.
Yes.
And, just to be a part of our little Tusoka community. So what's going on, Candy?
Well, I think I should give the mic to you because you had a significant highlight on Wednesday. First of all,
Yes.
Judy had an event and I took the train from my town to downtown LA. Easiest thing ever. Didn't have to battle traffic. And then I get out and then I go to this event that was started by my sister 4 years ago. And it is called
Rise Up, a Racial Justice Conference. So Rise Up. So this is something that I've been doing with my agency, Penny Lane Centers, for the last 4 years now. And we felt that there was a significant need for this sort of public forum to have these conversations following the murder of George Floyd. His murder was the impetus behind Penny Lane really wrapping its arms around everything related to racial and social justice and spreading a message of inclusivity. So we created this conference, and year 4, just this past week, and we are really proud of being able to publicly stand up and say this is what we believe in, particularly during this tumultuous time in our country. So we gathered amazing speakers, keynotes, workshop presenters, and over 200 people together on Wednesday to talk about these really difficult topics.
Yeah, and this session was a lot about immigration and what to do. I know a lot of us feel hopeless and helpless, but there are tangible action steps that you can take to help our immigrant brothers, sisters, and children who are suffering the dehumanizing, undignified treatment that they're enduring. So I was super duper proud of my sister. And
Candy's always right there in the front row. Always.
Yes. And, when they introduced her and she's walking up, I, of course, yelled, "That's my sister!" And while Judy was talking, she gave a really great, thoughtful speech. She mentioned a personality assessment, and it's called the BIRD assessment.
Birds of different feathers.
Yes. And I had never heard of it. And I said, this might be cool to talk about on the podcast. And if you're 25 or older, you've taken a personality assessment. Now, Judy, this is in your wheelhouse. What are some of the personality assessments that, are common? Well, first of all, we've talked about love languages on the show. And we've talked about that. What are some that you guys use in your practice?
I can't say it's so much personality based. It's more like evidence based practices to help assess a client from a clinical perspective. So it's not necessarily something that any random person would do. But it helps us clinically to assess and diagnose someone's mental health challenges that they may be facing. This isn't a personality assessment, and you and I have talked about this assessment before, but this is very, very clinical. When we talk about the ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, that's an assessment that we use, but it's not really a personality assessment. That's more of a very clinical, addressing trauma, so on and so forth. Birds of different feathers is a personality assessment. My husband has told me about a color assessment that he did at work where you were green, red, blue, yellow. and those different categories kind of pulled out different traits that a blue, green, red, green, yellow person might have. So I'm sorry, I don't know the name of that, but it's out there. I think I've Googled it and found it before. But birds of different feathers speaks to me on a different level, because it talks about the different personalities, but then it talks about how those personalities can work with other personalities to have a more effective communicative relationship. So this was created, and this is a work style assessment, so anybody in any business could do this. And this was created by Barbara Haitley and Warren Schmidt. um, you can Google birds of different feathers and find it, and you're going to see an owl, a peacock, a hawk, or a dove. And this is what the assessment determines which bird you are. And I find it to be incredibly insightful. And I feel like the other assessments that I've done are more surface level. Oh, that's good to know. I'm a direct person, or I'm more of an introverted person at work. But this really takes it deeper and helps you understand what your style is and how that style can work with other styles. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I know there are personality assessments where it's like, I'm a EA something something. I can't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know. Let me just look that up. We've got this
Okay, all
handy
right.
dandy thing here.
Okay. Gonna get a blanket. It's chilly. I put on the AC. And
What?
now I put on the AC,
Uh
you
huh.
know, because I'm under the hot lights of the cameras of the stage.
Right. And I'm sweating. I've got two fans.
Right. And I let me put the blanket on my lap.
Okay. And I'm looking. There are all types here. Um.
I
Okay.
remember a few years back people would
Oh, this
say
is the
what they
one.
were. Uh-huh.
There's the Myers Briggs personality test.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um. Okay, it's not letting me get into it. Best personality, the Enneagram test site. There are lots of free personality tests
Mm-hmm.
that you can find here online. Um, but we're going to really just focus on the birds of different
Right.
feathers.
And I think if you work with one other person, you can take this test, you know?
Oh,
And
anybody.
you can take it individually to know how you communicate and kind of zone in on how you operate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think, you know, when I did the love languages and people say, "Oh, that's foolishness. That's, you know, whatever it is." Um, it gave me insight into how to communicate with my kids and how they
Yes,
best feel loved. And
exactly.
that was very useful for me. And I think this is kind of a cool thing to do at work so you can recognize how to best approach people so that they feel valued and your communication is effective.
Yeah. It's I think all of these assessments, whether it's love
Hmm.
language or different feathers or Myers Briggs, it just provides you insight into who you are and how you operate and present in the world.
Right.
So I took my test and I announced on Wednesday, I'm a dove. I'm 110% a dove, almost a perfect score. Candy took hers yesterday,
Yeah. Hmm.
and she hasn't told me what bird she is, but she already knows that I'm a dove.
Hmm.
So, so let me go through some of the characteristics of each before you make me guess.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm just going to be looking at my screen here because I want
Yeah,
to
and
give you accurate
I
information.
printed mine out.
Oh, there you go.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
All right.
so the hawk. Um, as a hawk, you tend to be results oriented. You value productivity. You enjoy competition, pressure, challenging work. You dislike wasting time. You have trouble dealing with fuzzy thinkers, ambiguity, and uncertainty. You express anger aggressively. You're embarrassed by others getting too personal with you, and you want to be appreciated for your accomplishments. You like being rewarded with more authority, power, control, and status. Candy, do you know any hawks in your life?
Yeah.
Uh, and my boss is a hawk. My boss
Really?
is 100% a
Really?
hawk.
Uh-huh.
Um, and when we interact, she'll say things like, "My hawk is coming out," um, and she'll be able to notice when my dove is present. I will say that in any working environment, we need all of these. You
Right, right.
cannot have an office or an organization run with all hawks, because there's going to be a lot of competition and people trying to assert themselves over others.
Oh,
You've
you
got
mean like Congress?
that could be a good example of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
So every organization needs all of the different birds. So the peacock
And hawks tend to be leaders.
tend
Yeah.
to be leaders. So the peacock, you think a lot about vision, dreams, aspirations. You value in others self expression and creativity. You enjoy challenging work, stimulation, novelty, fun. You dislike being bored. You have trouble dealing with rules and authority figures. You express anger by getting frustrated and or attacking. You're embarrassed by being criticized for showing off. You want to be appreciated for your uniqueness, creativity, and contribution. You like to be rewarded with attention, recognition, and applause. You know any peacocks?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right. See, Candy is like being a little bit vague in her responses because she doesn't
Cagey. Cagey.
cagey, because she doesn't want to divulge yet what kind
Mm-hmm.
of bird she is. Okay, so this is me, the dove. I value in others thoughtfulness, sensitivity, and caring. I enjoy collaboration and teamwork. I dislike conflict, tension, and confrontation. Have trouble dealing with being overlooked or ignored. I express anger by becoming conciliatory and or upset. Embarrassed by being challenged by assertive others. Want to be appreciated for my participation, being of service. Like to be rewarded with acceptance, being liked, being needed. You know
So
any
you like a
doves?
part you like a participation ribbon?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. All right.
I think there are times where when you talk about that, where if you win, you win,
Mm-hmm.
but you're acknowledged for your contribution.
Uh-huh. And doves are team players, and they are well liked and respected for their good work and easy style.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so the owl thinks a lot about facts and details, values in others good judgment, enjoys having plenty of accurate information, dislikes making mistakes, being wrong, have trouble dealing with those who want quick, simple answers, expresses anger calmly and rationally, embarrassed by others, impatience with thoughtful analysis, want to be appreciated for high quality work, likes to be rewarded with more responsibility and autonomy. You know any owls?
I work with one, and they are objective, analytical, logical,
Yes.
and they work best when they have all the information to come up with a solution.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So those are the four birds. Now,
Yeah,
the test that goes along with this, ideally, you complete the test before you look at any of the other information.
right.
And I'm scrolling down, scrolling.
Well, you grade yourself 1 to 4. So they have like competitive, creative, impulsive, cooperative, relaxed, thorough, or detailed. And then the one that's most like you is a 4. The one that's least like you is a 1. So when I did the test, I picked out the one that was most like me and least like me, and then did 4 and 1. And then sometimes the others in between were a toss up.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it, rather than doing 1, 2, 3, 4, I did most extreme, least extreme, and then did the stuff in between.
Oh, I see. That was your approach to it.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's seven different categories that you score yourself 1 through 4 on. And at the bottom, you add up those numbers and you fall into category A, B, C, or D upon completion. So now you take your scores A, B, C, and D, and then you drop them into this scoring grid that determines your bird style. So if you have a high number of A within the A category, you're a hawk, B, peacock, C, dove, and D, owl.
Right.
And that's how you determine your bird style. Your
Now,
highest score represents your strongest bird characteristic. Your lowest score represents the bird that you are least like.
Yeah. So if you're listening, it might be frustrating. You're trying to figure out what's your personality style, and we aren't going to go through all the details, just like an owl would want. But this is available online, right?
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
have to pay for it, or
No,
so.
it's out there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So knowing that a hawk is a leader, a peacock is lively and entertaining,
Mm-hmm.
a dove is a team player, and an owl is objective and analytical, which one do you think your sister is?
My sister is not a dove.
What do you think I am?
Okay, see, I know you in different capacities, and I can absolutely see the peacock in you
Mm-hmm.
because my sister, frustrated actor, um, bigger than life, storyteller, and I see aspects of the hawk, the leader, taking control, um, having power. But you're not a competitive person.
Oh God, no! I'm allergic to that.
Yeah. I'm allergic
Yeah.
to. Yeah, you don't really give a shit what other people are
I
doing.
don't care. I don't care.
Don't care. So that's what leads me from thinking that you are a hawk. And then I think owl. I think thoughtful, analytical. um, I think the sensitivity. I'm gonna go owl with a
Mm-hmm.
bit of with peacock as your second.
Okay. Let's hear what it is.
Drum roll, please.
Drrrr.
Okay, you're really doing it.
Okay, yeah, Judy, I'm a dove.
What the frickin' frack?
I
No,
know.
no.
Yes, I'm a dove. I did
How
not.
are you a dove? Oh my gosh.
How am I a dove? Well, look at this. Doves don't like confrontation.
Right?
Doves are sensitive. I'm a child abuse doctor. Uh, doves become conciliatory when I express my anger, like, okay, fine, whatever. Turns
What?
out I want a service ribbon. We're more alike than you thought.
Wow.
Yeah. And I
Wow.
honestly, I know. And my second highest score was owl.
Okay.
When I read
Okay.
this, I didn't know that I shouldn't read the descriptions beforehand. So I read it and I was like, oh, I'm going to be a peacock just because of that flashiness and things like that. I
Right.
thought peacock for sure. And then I'm like, lo and behold, I'm a dove.
Candy, you're a
And
dove?
yes,
How am
Judy,
I so far off? Because I was like, off the bat, you're not a dove.
I don't think you've seen me at work. I
Okay.
don't
Okay.
I don't think you've seen me because I feel like if you're too aggressive and too intense at work, it can alienate people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm non-confrontational. And then here it says your chief desire at work is to be part of a harmonious, productive team.
Okay.
And I'm the medical director. I want everybody to feel valued and feel important, and I feel like your person, you can take this at different times of your life and
Mm-hmm.
it might change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now I am into that dove part. Here, you are rarely in a hurry and your work is steady and even. You don't like pressure and you need time to adjust to change. I was just telling you how I taught a class and they scheduled me with a patient and it was like, I didn't have the time to ease into it.
Right.
And when I read this, I'm like, this is me. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, folks, I know my sister very well.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's the work piece that I'm not witnessing on a day to day. Like, I feel like a jerk not having guessed your dove.
You're not a
Like,
jerk.
what? How did I miss that?
Yeah,
Because
you're not a jerk.
in my world, Candy, I see those qualities. I do. It's not like they're not present.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in my world, I see the analytical, I see the flamboyance, I see so much more of that. But as you talk about this, like, yeah, I recognize, like, you and I don't like conflict. There are
Right.
definitely similarities there.
Uh-huh.
We don't like, I know we don't like being challenged.
Right.
That is a problem for both of us. But yeah, I would not have said dove off the bat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's say, let me read a little bit more about the dove. You tend to speak indirectly and often solicit the opinions of others. You are not one
And
to assert
yeah,
yourself over
I
others.
do that because I don't want to be perceived as an authoritarian figure. So I'm like, what do
Right.
you think about this? What do you think about this? And then you take it all in and you come
Yes.
to a consensus
Yep.
because, and I think I'm trying to make peace at work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my job is tough enough. I don't need people leaving because I'm difficult to work with.
Right. And I know that I take other people's opinions into account. I genuinely want to hear what people have to say. And if I'm in a meeting and I have one idea or thought and other people have other ideas, like let's say we're voting on something, I'm not going to assert and say, no, 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 I'm not for that. If the majority of the votes are for a certain thing, then sure, I'm going to go with it because
Right.
everybody else thinks it's a good idea. I can hop on that bandwagon.
Right.
And I learn how to, like, put my opinions, not opinions to side, like I'm devaluing my perspective, but I am very able to recognize the benefits of what somebody else is sharing and to be
Yep.
able to say, oh yeah, I can go with that.
Or that's a better idea than what I was thinking.
Right.
That's fabulous.
Yes. Yes. Okay, you share your perceptions and feelings with others, but only after you have asked them what they think and feel.
And
You
I
often,
have an example of that.
yeah, go for it.
Okay, so you know the practice of medicine, it's an art. You know, we come to the same conclusion, but we may take different routes. And I work with two other doctors, and one doctor, they were treating an illness one way, which was very aggressive, and I didn't think I felt it was overkill. And so I had a meeting with the two of them. I'm like, what do you guys think? Like, this is what I do. What do you do? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And they shared what they do. And then, of course, I researched what I think is should be the plan of attack for this condition. And I sent it to both of them. And then, I did like an evidence based type of treatment, and I sent it to both of them. And what I discovered was how I feel, I was quote unquote right. And I feel like that approach was better than saying, that's wrong, do it my way, because it's like, look, I have an impartial source, evidence based. This is the
Right.
consensus among other physicians. Here, let's start doing this. And
Right.
I feel that was better than being authoritarian and saying you're wrong. And then, of course, when you do it that way, it's no hard feelings. There's no
Right.
resentment building.
Right.
And then I didn't feel like I was imposing what I believe or saying you're wrong. So that, yeah. I really I feel like the work I do is tough enough. You don't
Yeah.
need to be miserable by, yeah.
And I agree on all fronts.
Mm-hmm.
You want to create a harmonious environment, and I think that is definitely my Dove thinking. I have my door at my office open all the time. Unless I'm in a meeting, it is open. People can drop in. It's warm. I create like a warm and welcoming space in my office because I want people to feel comfortable coming in. And then you go into someone else's office, and it's you can see the difference in style. Like, it's sharper corners, it's harder edges. It's I have the
No
touchy
personality.
no
Mm-hmm,
I have
yeah.
the touchy feely things in my office, the warm throw blankets, and just
Yeah.
it's a different vibe for me. So Doves thrive on collaboration, cooperation, team projects, group activities, mutual support, and peaceful togetherness. And
Now
you've just
that, yeah, but that surprised me because I used to hate group projects.
right.
Like when you're doing a group project, there's always a person who
Yep.
hasn't read the material but has an opinion. There's somebody who has bad ideas but think they're the best and want to take it over. There's somebody who does all the work, and there's somebody who shows up and saying, "So what are we doing? What are we doing?" And they want all the credit. And so I still don't really care for group projects because it's like I know my work ethic, I know what I do, but I feel like as I've changed and my role has changed, especially at work, you find out that being more collaborative makes people feel valued.
And the more you collaborate, the stronger the product.
Yeah, and diversity matters.
Yes, it does. You want to hear different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I think of group projects, I think of school. I mean, I also teach, and I have a group project in all of my classes. And I think educationally, group projects can be really hard because you have those people showing up like that. The one that doesn't do the work, doesn't show up, doesn't contribute, blah, 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 blah. In my work setting, I don't feel that. It feels very different at my job than like in an academic sense. And I feel that where I work, when teams come together, we're all in it. Candy, rise up. I might have been on that stage, but there are like 40 people behind me that
It's
helped to get me there.
there were a lot of moving parts to that conference, which was fabulous. Yeah.
you know so I feel that when I think group projects at work, I'm not scared of that the way I would
Mm-hmm.
be if it was an academic sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Doves are rarely in a hurry and work at a
Mm-hmm.
steady pace, even
Yeah.
pace. You don't like pressure, and you need time to adjust to change.
That's
So
definitely me.
you don't like pressure. This came up for me when I was a freshman in college. I had one all nighter where I had to write a paper, and I woke, well, I didn't wake up the next morning because I didn't sleep. But the next day I said, never again. I
Yeah.
cannot handle that pressure. So from then on, I was the girl that had her papers done 3 and 4 days ahead of time.
Yeah. I did in my
I
academic
can't.
career, I did one all nighter, and I didn't set out for it to be an all-nighter, but I was studying for a microanatomy test. So that's looking at the slides. In medical school, you were given a microscope and you were given slides like, oh, what's this? Oh, this is uterine lining. So imagine, like, all of these, you had to look at it and say what it is. What's the
Mm-hmm.
disease process? And I'm like, well, let me look at this. And then, you start at 8, and before you know it, it's 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
did not perform well. And I
Right.
knew that I would never do this again. It was so not worth it. And from then on, I don't think I went to bed after like midnight. I'd be like, if I don't know it now, I'm never going to know it.
Right. Right.
And it was like, but people did like, well, I'm going to pull an all nighter. People did that in college. People did. I can't function like that. I don't like the stress.
I do not like the pressure of it. And some people thrive under that last minute
Yeah.
and they get it done.
Yeah.
In graduate school, I had a girlfriend who, like, my paper was done 3 days ago and she's rolling in and she just printed it. And she did really well in school. Like, having
Hmm.
that pressure made her focus in a way
Yeah.
that would have just freaked me out.
Yeah. I
So
would explode. Yeah.
I cannot do pressure. I like to get my things done well in advance and know that I have time to breathe.
Hmm. Yeah.
Time to breathe. Um, okay, so you prefer to work with others and often take on the role of peacemaker since you don't like conflict or confrontation.
Hmm.
So before I even became a therapist, um, Rick and I weren't married, but Rick commented how all of my friends, my family, my people, they come to me um, when they are in conflict for how to best resolve.
Hmm.
And, I was just doing what I do. I wasn't thinking much about it. But at work, when there is conflict at work, people often seek me out. Someone sought me out Wednesday afternoon after the conference. Judy, can I talk to you about something? Um, and it's I've been asked to unofficially mediate. Oh, Judy, you know how to smooth this over. Why don't you go talk to them? Uh, and I don't know. I think, Candy, what I do is I just let people share. I'm present. They can talk to me. I don't tell them what to do, how to do it. I just let them talk. And I think by doing that, they are better able to come up with their own solutions for how to address the problem.
Well,
So
that's like a therapist.
I guess
That's
that's
therapy.
a
A therapist will not. A good therapist will never tell you what you should do. They'll let you talk through it, and then they'll say, "Good talk." Meantime, they've just said, "Tell me about that."
right,
They
right.
haven't told, and so that I'm classic therapy.
Yeah.
But in terms of smoothing things over, I've mentioned this before that Judy is great at reading emails and like smoothing it out so it doesn't come across as harsh or
Hmm.
abrasive or confrontational, because sometimes when you're in your feelings and you send that email out,
Yeah.
it's not good. And I have written an email and then amended it and changed it and thought it was warm and fuzzy. And Judy reads it. She's like, oh no, this isn't good. So, yeah.
Yeah. So the next item I have here is that your chief desire at work is to be part of a harmonious and productive team.
Definitely.
I love my teams at work, and I have different teams. I have the Rise Up team, I have this leadership team, or that leadership team. And each team is something different, different purpose. Uh, but I think just that connection that I get with those different people is really appealing to me, and fostering those relationships and just being in a place where you value one another, feel respected, and given the grace and opportunity to be authentically you. Um, that's what I love about teaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, how do you, we'll go through this dove thing and then we can kind of give snippets of the others.
Hmm.
Here it says to increase your effectiveness with others who are different from you, you can work to become clearer about your opinions and ideas and express them more assertively. Sometimes conflict and confrontation can be positive and constructive, and you can grow professionally by developing your tolerance for honest disagreements and healthy debate. Become more comfortable with change and uncertainty and be ready to take on leadership roles when the situation is appropriate. You know, when I started my job as medical director, I mean, I went from being in an abusive work situation to being like the chief. And there was some adjustment. There was, you know, PTSD from the previous work situation. But sometimes I would say, well, you know, to the office administrator or something. And she said, well, you're the boss. And I'm like, what? Oh, yeah, I am. And I was like, and it was difficult for me to kind of come into that role because I was so pushed down in the last job that to come in and kind of have some authority, I wasn't comfortable with it. I'm fine with it, and I recognize that you don't have to be a jerk to be a boss or to be a leader. But it was hard for me to kind of be that figurehead and know that people are watching me. And when you're the boss, people are looking at you. Oh, you know, Dr. Grant sure does take a lot of vacation. Well, first of all, it's approved vacation. And second of all, you take your vacation. This is for my mental health.
Right.
And so yeah, that getting into that leadership thing was difficult.
And you know, my current role, I'm a department of one. I don't have, this is the first time in some years where I do not supervise people, right? So I've talked about this with my boss, and she reminds me that supervising doesn't mean that you're not a leader. And she said, like, in so many other ways, you lead, like, the agency. You lead the agency in understanding about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. You take that role on in, like, a very, we talk about the quiet strength of the dove. I don't need to walk in and say, hey, I'm leading this group today. But by showing up and presenting, I end up leading the group. So
Right.
it's, you don't have to, you can lead in different ways is my point. It doesn't matter what bird you are, you can find a way to be in that leadership role. And sometimes I don't even realize that I'm doing it, and then my boss is like, oh yeah, you're absolutely doing it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Now,
Right.
the last part of the dove on the last page is improving work relationships with doves. So if you go to work and you and your staff take this test and they recognize that, oh, Dr. Grant is a dove, then this is what you
Yes.
would read and learn in order to communicate with a dove.
Right. Right. And
So
this is the one thing I really love about this assessment. It tells the other birds how to work more effectively
right,
with the birds that
right.
you're not. Mm-hmm.
So, for doves, you communicate in an informal manner, be agreeable and relax. They
Mm-hmm.
don't respond well to confrontation.
No, don't come at me.
When implementing change, take your time. We don't like change that happens like that. And then we want to feel needed and included. Ask them for opinions, perceptions. So, you know, I've had situations where I walk in and I'm like, what's going on? Oh, you guys, oh, what? Like, remember when mommy was sick and I was away and we changed offices? I came and things were different and I felt bad, but I'm like, thank God they didn't call me when my mother was sick, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
then here, natural born team players
Mm-hmm.
and valuable asset to any group. Um, don't criticize or embarrass a dove in front of people. Yeah, yeah, I do not respond well to, you know, like people being super aggressive or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, yeah, that's not good for me. And then,
No.
yeah. And then, you know what? I mean, I've said it before, but I remember situations from 40 years ago when I was made to feel small.
Right.
And that, my toxic trait is that I remember that. And it's not like anything I try to remember, but I remember humiliations and the way I was spoken to. And there's certain people that I have beef with. They don't know I have beef, but if I were to run into them, I'd be like, remember in fourth grade when. But what's interesting is when I was in fifth grade, you know the story, I was being bullied by this kid who sat next to me. And then at our 30th year high school reunion, I'm eating dinner and he comes and he sits next to me. I'm like, what are you doing sitting next to me? You terrorized me in fifth grade. So this is 1977. And then,
Right.
I mean, yeah. So, and then this man told me, Sophia, I couldn't understand why you were so happy. I
Right.
couldn't understand why people were happy. I've struggled with depression my entire life. I'm on mood stabilizers now and I'm doing so much better. He apologized. He came to my 50th birthday party. If I were to see him now, we would greet each other warmly. So I'm glad that I told him that because I would still be having that 10-year-old resentment. Not 10-year-old, I was 10 years old.
Right.
But 50-year-old resentment. But yeah. So
But
don't embarrass me or criticize me.
but then that also goes back to that when it says sometimes conflict or confrontation can be positive and constructive.
Right.
So you picked a moment, 45 years later, whatever it was, but you did pick the moment and you did share how you felt. And
Right.
you were probably in a space where you felt more, 'cause you were a 10-year-old girl.
Right.
You're now a
Right.
grown ass woman.
Yeah.
But that dove kind of came out.
Grown ass black woman.
Grown ass black
Black
woman.
woman.
So when you look at this assessment, I mean, like I said, that's my favorite part, just knowing how to better relate to others. As I said, my boss is a hawk, but she is so incredibly compassionate and kind, that sometimes you're like, how is she a hawk? But then you see how fierce she can be and how courageous she is, and she will stand up and she'll tell you how she feels. And if she questions your integrity or has any doubt about what you're doing, she's going to ask you. She doesn't hold back. I think she knows me well enough that she would not come at me in any
Right.
sort of aggressive way. If there was an issue, she would take a different path with me. And
Right.
it would not, because she knows if she comes at me, I'm going to shut down, I'm going to back off, I'm going to be embarrassed, I'm going to cry, I'm going to hold that resentment. But, and we've never ever had an issue where any of that has come up. But it's so important to be able to know how to work with others. So
Right.
let me quickly share, how do we work with hawks? If you are not a hawk and you need to work with a hawk, communicate with hawks directly and succinctly. Get to the bottom line. Don't drown them in details. Do not micromanage a hawk. Over supervising a hawk is equivalent to clipping his or hers or their wings. Give hawks lots of challenging work to do. They're excellent at multitasking and can handle many projects at once. Hawks are builders, creators, generators of ideas for the future. Hawks prefer to be in leadership positions and not be as good as being followers as they are leaders, because they like to have control of themselves. So those are just a few ways to work with hawks. Candy, do you want to talk about how to work with peacocks?
Yeah, sure. Peacocks like to be communicated with in an informal manner, be social, enthusiastic, be stimulating and quick. Peacocks adapt quickly to change and don't need a lot of details. Peacocks need to be included. They're idea people and dreamers who excel at getting others excited. They're people oriented, so give them time to socialize. Avoid rushing into tasks. That I have a friend who I know is a peacock, because damn, she can talk and she can meet, like she'd be in line at the post office and then leave with somebody's number. So
I think I know who you're talking about.
you know exactly who I'm talking about. And she says it herself. She makes friends like a third grader. Everybody's her best friend.
Oh, that's
And
so
then
funny.
peacocks are risk takers and base many of their ideas on intuition, support their intuitions and ideas.
Yeah. Okay. You already know how to work with us as doves,
Uh-huh.
but the last one is how to work with an owl. And remember,
Yeah.
owls are logical, objective, analytical.
Yes.
They take
Step
their
by step.
time. Yes. So,
And that was my second highest
ooh,
score.
right, right. And I had you pegged as an owl with a little bit of peacock, but you're a dove with a little bit of owl. Okay, communicate with owls in a logical, rational manner. Be precise in your communication and give them accurate facts, figures, and other data. Owls are great at quality control. They are attentive to detail and make sure that things are done right. So I'm thinking about this like in terms of my work environment. And we have people in those quality control um, areas, right? Where they do the clinical records and they have to ensure that documentation is done precisely and so on and so forth. And those are the owls. Like there is a niche for everybody, a niche for everyone.
Yeah. And the owl I work with, my charts are peer reviewed. So we like Dr. A reviews as Dr. B, Dr. B, Dr. C. Because and it's not like, oh, you misdiagnosed. It's like a lot of these records, they go to court and they're scrutinized. And
Mm-hmm.
like I testified earlier, and I wrote on one chart 2.5 something, but it by the time it was copied and it looked like 26. So
Oh.
we are peer reviewed just to make sure that it holds up to the scrutiny,
Mm-hmm.
and we miss things. And this doctor always catches mistakes. Like, I
Right.
mean, it's like he can comb through and find the one time I didn't cross my T.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm glad we have him. Yeah.
Yeah. We, like I said, we need all of these birds in order for an organization to run smoothly. Um, Attentive to detail. Okay, I said that. Make sure things are done right. They especially appreciate it if you ask for their judgment on issues within their area of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that this person is fabulous with this particular thing, go to them. Because if you don't go to them, they're going to feel like, what?
Left
Why?
out.
Yeah, why didn't they come to me? That's like in my wheelhouse.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like if somebody at work was like suddenly wanting to teach something about equity. I'll be like, wait a second. That's my gig.
Yeah.
Okay. Do not be vague, emotional, inconsistent, or irrational when interacting with an owl. Also, do not be too formal. Owls want work relationships that are businesslike and professional. Owls are thorough and comprehensive in their approach to everything. They will make sure that all the T's have been crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Owls need plenty of time to adjust to change and will be very concerned with the how of change in addition to the what of change. Owls will respond well when they can be given autonomy and the opportunity to exercise their best professional judgment. Compliment them on the quality of the work, and they will continue to produce first rate results.
Yeah.
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 Um, Again, there is room for all of these birds in any work environment, and they all play their role. You cannot have a situation where they're only owls,
Right.
because then
And
you're going to lose the sensitivity, the team player of the dove, or the
right.
directness of the hawk, and so on and so forth. You must be able to have all of them working together.
And I think honestly, this is great if you work with a team. Like, I mean, if you have like 100 people, that's going to be difficult. But
Mm-hmm.
if you work with a team of like even like 30 people or so, and everybody takes this test, and maybe on their door or on their cubicle, they have the dove, hawk, owl, or peacock. I
Mm,
think you will learn how to approach that person in a way that it's going to be received best.
yeah.
And this goes back to the love
Yes,
languages,
it does.
when recognizing how people feel appreciated and feel loved. I think this is similar for a workplace, because, say you're talking to a peacock and you come in with graphs and bars and measures and details, they aren't going to receive it
Mm-mm.
like the owl would. And I think this would, if you guys take it, this would contribute to work harmony. I
Yeah.
think it's a really good idea if you are working in a field, especially. I don't expect stock traders to be doing this.
Right.
Um, but I think when you work with, a people oriented field such as Judy's, such as mine, or you have a small staff, even if you have a business and you're doing graphic design or making t-shirts, learning how people communicate, and then you can put them in the leadership roles where they're going to thrive.
Right. Right.
Is an owl going to want to be in a hawk role? Maybe, maybe not. But
Mm-hmm.
recognize who the hawks are, recognize how people communicate. And I feel like this can contribute to work harmony. That's as long as you don't have a toxic workplace.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Um, I had a thought. What was it? Oh shoot. I just lost it. It was a good thought too. I think it's an opportunity to know your people better.
Mm-hmm.
So, your next leadership team meeting, department meeting, do the birds of different feathers assessment. And it
Yeah.
gets people really thinking, like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this. Oh, this was my thought. So, I kicked it up a notch after I discovered my dove. And I went to my friend Chat Susie. Most of you know her as Chat GPT, and I explained to Susie, like, she knows my role, that of what I do. I dropped in that I'm a dove, and I said, Susie, what suggestions would you have for me? How would a dove show up? Blah 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 blah. And surprisingly, very insightful. And Susie actually gave me some questions to check in with my dove self at the end of each month. How did I show up? And
Oh,
so
that's neat. Mm-hmm.
I've taken my assessment of the dove, dropped it in with Susie, and now I'm able to check myself, because how did I lead with kindness and courage this month? Was there a conflict that I needed to address, a difficult moment? How did I do this? And so I check in with my dove on a regular basis to make sure that everything that I'm doing is aligning, and that also that I don't downplay my dove qualities. And that's one thing about the dove, because everybody's like, oh, the dove's so sweet, so gentle, so kind, and kind of could make that feel lesser than. And no, the dove, just like all of these other birds, have their place. And Susie helps me to remember that, and, really, really lean into it. Really lean into it, as anybody can lean into their birds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think this is a good place to wrap up.
Yep. Yep.
So, what are you? A dove, a peacock, a hawk, or an owl? Go online, take the assessment. If you take it and you want to share your results and any insight, you can always email us at twosokapodcast@gmail.com. Reach out to us on Instagram, Two Sisters of a Certain Age. And if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please remember we're on YouTube under Two Soka. So you can watch us and see our just our tops that we're wearing. and our lip glosses. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining on this episode of Two Sisters of a Certain Age. We're so happy that you're listening. And for our faithful listeners, please share with friends, because we love to get the community, the Two Sofa family, talking about important stuff and maybe not so important stuff. So thanks again for listening in.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
No Longer Network.